Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper. And today we're going to make this step card, which uses some of the items from the Trusty Tools stamp set and the Trusty Tools dies, which have carried over into the new annual catalogue. The only thing I have used in this video is the papers, which were a celebration item, but you could make this card without those papers, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So as I said, Trusty Tools stamp set and die set. So I'm going to put those to one side. Now I've done most of the preparation for this, otherwise the video would be extremely long. Let me just give you another look at the card. So this is it flat, and it is basically the same size as a C6 card if you looked at it that way. I saw something very similar to this done by an American demonstrator, but it was done in inches on their letter size paper, and I wanted to convert it so that we could do it in centimetres on our A4 paper. Right, so enough of the waffle from me. I'm going to put the card to one side and I'm going to bring in the bits and pieces, and I'm going to do my best to explain what I've done. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in... Now, what I've done... These are all the bits and pieces that we need, and I've cut most of it. Well, I've cut it all to size, apart from showing you how to do the base. So bits and pieces falling out everywhere. So this is the base of the card, and rather than just show you that, I'm going to show you how to do it from scratch. So this is starts off life as half of a A4 sheet, so it's the width of an A4 sheet. But instead of being 14.8, which is what a half of an A4 sheet is, and a standard C6 usually is, it's actually only 14 across, and you'll see the reason for that in a minute. I could have left it at the 14.8, but that would have meant that there was point this and point that to fiddle around with, and I like an easy life. So, okay, so the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to bring my trimmer in. Now, I cut this to size, so 21 across by 14, so 21 on the long side, 14 centimeters down the short side. Now the first thing I did, and I have actually done it, so you can see I've popped this into my trimmer and I've scored it exactly in half, so at 10.5. So if we fold that in half, that is our card base. So it's a little bit short of being a basic C6, but you could, I suppose, if you wanted to, do it at the 14.8, but then you would need to work out your measurements at 7.4, which you could do. And I don't know why I didn't, but anyway, as I said, I like life simple. So what I've done, I've actually put my piece of cardstock in my trimmer at 7 centimetres. Then what I've done is got a pencil and just very lightly using the trimmer bed, if you like, as a guide, I've drawn a line. Now you'll see why in a second. So what we're then going to do, now my line is quite heavy, it will still rub out, but when you're doing it for yourself, do a nice light line, then you won't have to rub it out so hard. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some scoring. So we are going to score along the long edge, and the first score we're going to make is going to be at 3 centimetres. Now there's a reason for this line, and that reason is that we are only going to score from this line down to the bottom of the card. Okay, so using my scoring blade. Now if you've got a Stampin' Up trimmer like I have, you'll notice that on the cutting and the scoring blade, just let me lift this up and hopefully you can see it, there is a little line each end there. Oh goodness, my hands look so old. I've got a skin condition which makes my skin really dry, as you can probably see. Yeah, so there's a little notch on each side, and you can use that to know exactly where you're going. So our first score was at 3 centimetres. Now the next score we want to do at 5.5 centimetres, and again we're just scoring down from that line. Okay, you shouldn't have to press too hard. The next score after that is at 5.5. Did I just do 5.5? Yes, I just did 5.5, didn't I? So the next, so we've got 3, 5.5, and then we want one at 8. And again, we're just scoring down from that center line. And then the last one is at 15.5. Now, if you've got the Stampin' Up trimmer, you won't be able to get your cardstock to 15.5 because the arm will be in the way. So just open it slightly and then you can get across to 15.5 there. And again, we are just scoring from that center line. I'm just going to make sure because I've just slightly missed that. It's a little bit difficult when I'm filming because the camera's in the way. Okay, so we can close that up again because we don't need the arm. So you can see we've got our 3, 5.5, 8. This is our center line, which is at 10.5. And then we've got 15.5. Now, in order to be able to fold these score lines, we now need to make a cut. So we are going to cut down this central line that we've made, but we're not obviously going to cut the cardstock in half because that would defeat the object. We wouldn't have a card, we'd have 2 halves of a card. So we are going to cut from the 3 centimetre line, which is this bottom score here, to the 15.5 centimetre line, which is that score there. So line it up at 7 centimetres on your trimmer. You've got the line down the middle. We've got the 7 centimetres there. Now, the American lady I watched do this, she actually did the cutting first, which meant that you'd then got to mark your 15.5 point and your 3 centimetre point. But by doing the scoring first, we can line our cutting blade up. Would help if I had the right one. Can line our cutting blade up. Make sure you hold that firmly at 7 centimetres. And we can line our cutting blade up using the notches on the end with our score lines. Okay, so that's our 3 centimetre. And excuse me if my head ends up in shot. And we're going up to our 15.5. Now, we're a little bit shy of that. Let's put that back in. Yeah, there we go. So I can move my trimmer out of the way now. Okay, so this piece of this card here is staying like that. This piece here is the bit that's going to get folded. So the first fold we're going to do is a mountain fold. And this is where mine's a bit different from the American lady. And I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry if you ever see this and me making an absolute dog's dinner of your card. So she actually had 2 bits that were, so one fold and then another fold proud. But because I wanted to get this out of a half an A4 sheet, because I'm tight with my cardstock, I did mine like that. And then the card should fold in half. Okay, so at this point you need to rub out your pencil lines because we don't need those. I mean, in theory, you probably could have rubbed them out before you did the cut, but I just thought it would be easier for you to see. Okay, there we go. So pencil lines are gone. Okay, so this is our folded card base. Okay, so exactly the same as the one I showed you before. So then what we're going to do is I've got another piece of, this is Poppy Parade, by the way. If I didn't say that earlier, I've got another piece of Poppy Parade, and this measures 7 centimetres by 9.5. And then we've got a piece of the DSP that came in the free papers for celebration. This is sort of like that pegboard bench back. And I've cut that at the same size. So that is also 7 by 9.5. Now, if you don't have the DSP, what we do have in the dies is this. And you can see that it's not a lot smaller. Probably help if I took it out of the packet and put it on the top. So you could, if you haven't got these celebration DSPs or any left of these, what you could do is use this die. As you can see, it isn't much smaller. It's almost exactly the same length, and it's only literally 1 dot either side of the paper. So you could die cut that from some brown cardstock and sit that on your red piece there. Okay, so that's a workaround for that. Now, I have got the paper and I want to use it up because I'm terrible. I have loads of lovely papers. I like to get them out and I like to look at them and think, oh, aren't they beautiful? I'm not very good at using them. So it is my New Year's resolution to use up my papers. and stop hoarding them. Okay, so I've just stuck that piece of paper on there, but as I said, the workaround is to cut this from a piece of probably early espresso, would work really well, and just use that, and you just have a little bit of the red each side showing, which would be fine. Okay, now this is going to sit in here. Okay, we do want it to be level with the top of the card, or I do because I'm fussy. So if you just use a tiny piece of Tombow, and remember less is more because it's squidgy, in the bottom there, what you can do is open up your card. Now it's going to stick in this piece here. Okay, so we're going in there. So open up your card flat, offer it up like that, and then if you close your card up and lay it down, because Tombow gives us a little bit of wiggle room, you can see I can just pull that into line and make sure it's level with the edge of the card and the top of the card. Okay, so that's that piece. Right, then what I did was I went ahead and I used some of this, which reminds me of those Makita toolboxes, which I'm sure whoever designed this paper intended. So I have got a piece that is 7 centimeters wide, and it is 10.5 tall, because that is what our card is. So that is going to be stuck on there. Now, if you don't have these papers, what you could do is leave the Poppy Parade there and cut some strips of silver metallic just to make your toolbox effect. So we stock silver cardstock. So if you were to just cut some very thin, I reckon that's about 1/2 centimetre. Yep, there you go, look. Those silver strips are about 1/2 centimetre wide. So you could cut some, let me do that in the inches in case we've got any American people watching. So that is quarter of an inch or 1/2 centimetre wide. So if you don't have this paper, as I said, you could make this same Makita toolbox effect by just cutting some strips of silver. Okay, so that's the workaround for that. And then we've got some more strips here. So this one is going on here, and I've cut it so I can line the lines up, although it's not essential. I'm just a bit fussy like that. And this one again is 7 centimeters wide, but this one is 3.5. No, sorry, 3 centimeters. And I've just got glue all over my desk. Okay, and I'm just going to try and line those up, which again is why we've got a little bit of wiggle room, she says. Right, there we go. And see what I mean about the glue? It goes everywhere. Now, if you do what I've just done and you get glue everywhere, let it dry. And then once it's dry and it's gone clear, bring in your glue rubber. I mean, mine looks disgusting. It really is quite manky. And you can see where I've rubbed glue out here on the corners, and you just literally pull the corners off, which gets rid of a little bit of the rubber and all the tacky. And that obviously goes in the bin. Please excuse the state of my hands. Look, there. So always wait until the glue is dry, otherwise you will drag the cardstock. Okay, now I've got sticky bits everywhere. Right, and then our final piece is going to go here. I didn't quite line that up, but when it's folded it won't show. And this is very slightly smaller. This is 7 centimeters wide by 2.5, because this is a very slightly smaller piece. Okay. I cut them the same length to start with, and then one stuck over the back of the other, and then the card stuck together, and it was a drama. We don't need drama in our lives. Okay, and that, as I said, is going to sit on there. I've just opened a new bottle of glue, and the pesky thing is spilling out everywhere. You can see I've made a right mess, but we won't see that because we're going to cover that up. Okay, so those are our pieces, and I'm just going to give that a good press. So that is the base of our card with our steps. So then what I've gone ahead and done, I have cut out some of the standalone dies. So as lots of you know, in the with the Stampin' Up things, with the dies, there are always dies that cut out most of the images. So there's a die that cuts the hammer, there's a die that cuts the adjustable spanner, one for the tool tape measure, and there's a die that cuts the paintbrush and the pencil. So, but there are also dies that cut this toolbox. Will be a toolbox when I've assembled it. Oh, let me move that card back and hopefully you can see. Toolbox. There is an individual standalone die that cuts a double-ended spanner. And there is this great die that cuts an electric drill and the drill bit that you can put together there. And then there are... So this is the die that cuts out the paintbrush if I'd have stamped the image. But then there's this other die that cuts out the bristles. And that's how I've done the paintbrush with the blue on it. So you could stamp, and I probably should have stamp the paintbrush to get the lines on there. In fact, let's see if we can go back and do that. This will be a test, won't it? Okay, so I'm just grabbing that out. I'm prepping for my card classes and totally forgot about stamping that. Okay, so let's just pop that on there. Let's grab some ink. I'm going for pecan pie, actually. Let's see if it shows up. This is actually pecan pie cardstock. Now, it's a photopolymer, so I'm just going to bring in a stamp and piercing mat. Now, because you're not going to be able to see this on screen, I'm afraid, because I need to get my head over it in order to line it up. That's not too bad. In the words of most of my teachers when I was at school, could do better. But it's good enough. Okay, just give that a clean. Get rid of that. Okay, so, and then the bristles. Now, you do need to make sure you get this the right way up because there is a bumpy edge. So we're just gonna, now, I stuck these on my first card, my example card, but I'm not going to do that this time, and I'll tell you for why. Is because the glue, this is actually perforated and the glue leached all the way through. So I am looking for, what have I done with my dimensionals? Here they are. So I'm going to stick, now in an ideal world, if I had black dimensionals, I'd probably use those, but hopefully these won't show through. No, they don't show through too much. So let me just flick the backs off those. I'm going to stick that on there with a couple of dimensionals. Okay, right, so let's get the rest of this card loaded up then. So I found the easiest way to do this is to lay it flat. Now, I'm just going to do the drill gun first. And again, because it's cut to put in the detail, these bits are perforated. So you do have to be really careful. And it needs to go behind, in my opinion. You do have to be really careful about where you put your glue. So it will dry clear. So I'm just going to put a tiny, tiny bit, if I can manage, a tiny bit out of a new glue along the edge. And hopefully you can see that is literally 3 tiny dots. And then we can line that up behind the drill. Okay, I'm just going to give that a minute. So that's our drill. We've already got our spanner. We've put together our paintbrush. Now we're going to do the toolbox. I'm just going to get my pokey tool and poke that last hole out there. Now again, obviously this has got holes. On my first card, I stuck the handle over the top. I think what I'm going to do this time is stick it behind. But obviously anything that you put on there is going to show. So actually, no, I'm going to go back to what I did before and I'm going to stick it on the front. So I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of dab of glue. And if I can grab it, I'm going to stick that on. Make sure it's level. Don't want a wonky handle on our toolbox, do we? Okay, now this is going to stick out. You can see on my card here, this is going to stick out slightly over the side, but it's going to go on the front here. So we're okay to put a dimensional at the base and some over this side, but not on that other corner. I'm going to bring in my larger dimensionals for this. I'm just going to go like that. Bring in my trusty pot. These things get everywhere. I'm forever finding them around the entirety of my house. My craft room's upstairs, but I do my classes for my ladies that are local to me downstairs, and I find them everywhere. I always hoover up. I would like to make that point. I always hoover up after they've been, but I find the things everywhere. So that's our toolbox on there. Now the next thing, I'm trying to put that so you can see it. Hopefully, let me just put a block on the end of that. Hopefully that'll hold that down for you. So the next thing we're going to put on was our spanner. And again, I'm going to use the small dimensionals for this. This is where these are really handy. And I know you can cut your edges really tiny, but sometimes you just want a quick something. Okay, so I'm just peeling the backs off that. And I put my spanner across the pegboard like that. And then with the drill, we can get away with a couple of big dimensionals, but I'm only going to put one on because I'm going to stick it to one of the steps. Hopefully you can see that there. Let's put that back down. So I've only put one on the bottom because it needs to be freestanding, otherwise the step is stuck to the rest of the card and then it won't be a step. So I'm just going to stick that in there like that. And the only thing you need to make sure you don't do is what I've just done, is you don't want it to go over the side of the card because otherwise it won't fit in your envelope. So make sure that whatever angle you've got it at, the back of the drill is not sticking over the side. So that's that. And then we've got our paintbrush, and I just did that poking out of the toolbox. But on this one, I'm going to stick it on the front of the toolbox, I think. So I'm just going to put a small dimensional on there. Now, there's a reason that I didn't put it across the front on this one. I've got my tape measure there, but I want to have room to put a greeting there. In the set, you've got thank you, you're the most awesome, happy Father's Day, and Dad. And I'm probably going to cut that happy Father's Day, I haven't done it yet, and put it along that bottom bit there. Okay, so I'm just going to put one dimensional on the bottom, and I'm offering it up to my toolbox, and then I know that I can get a little one, oh goodness me, on that edge. Without sticking the card together. That is the only thing with things like these step cards. You do have to make sure that you don't end up sticking your card together when you put your elements on. Oh. There we go. That's that. And then this was just a trimming off one of the papers. Actually, I'll probably send this one as it is. Now it's got that piece of ruler on there, and I'll probably turn this one into my Father's Day card and put my Happy Father's Day along that bottom corner there. But yeah, this pegboard paper has got sort of a rule on the back. So this is literally just 1/2 centimetre of it. Just happened to cut that perfectly. And I've just cut that to 6 inches, I think, along the length. So let me just move these bits out of the way. There's just 2 more bits that we need to do. I will actually do my Happy Father's Day. I've got a piece of scrap. Now the thing with these long stamps like this is that you really need to just sort of drop them down and then put your block onto them and not try and place them, otherwise you don't get it straight. Right, the card's Poppy Parade. I'm toying with the idea of doing that in silver embossing, but I don't want to make this video go on for too long. Do you know what? I'm not going to do that because I am going to silver emboss it, but I also want to ink over it in the red, so I'm not going to put that on there at the moment. But what I am going to do is we need somewhere to write on this card, so the obvious place is on the back here. So you could either put a panel across here, but because I've got some glue there, I'm going to put a panel down there. So I'm just bringing my trimmer back in, and I need a piece of card that is 10.5 by 7. So I'm going to cut this at 7, because I know this is half of an A4 sheet, which means it's 14.8. And then I'm going to cut that down to 10.5, which gets us our panel to fit on there. And we're just going to glue that on. Now you could stamp on this, you could stamp your greeting on this. But because I'm going to put my greeting on the front of this card, and again, open the card out, it'll make it way easier to stick it on. It won't be bouncing about. Okay. Oh, screw your spanner up. Okay, so that is our finished card, and I hope you like it. So that's what it looks like from the front. You could put a greeting up here, and I might put my Happy Father's Day down here. I might put it up there. I'm not sure yet. Okay, and then that's our panel on the back for us to have something to write on. And then this was the other option. So I hope you like the card. I hope you'll give the step technique a go. It will work with so many different sets. It just adds a little bit of a something to it, having a fancy fold. Okay, that's it for me for now, and I'll see you all again soon with another video. Thanks for watching, and happy stamping.